8th, 2022, Public Works and Planning Committee of Rutherford County. Welcome. We have a full agenda tonight, so we will get started. First item is approval of the minutes. Before I turn that over to Vice Chair Piercy, I want to talk a second about the minutes. Just a little clarification that caused a little bit of confusion. In the solid waste portion of the minutes of last meeting, some of us, including myself, in the discussion about the Regional Solid Waste Board, during that lengthy debate, sometimes I and others referred to that also as the Regional Solid Waste Authority. And I don't want to confuse that. A solid waste authority is a total different entity, a total different discussion for another day. That is an authority and a group of people that have total different responsibilities than this regional board. So those references to that Regional Solid Waste Board, when I and others used the word authority, was an inadvertent misrepresentation. So that needs to be cleared up in the minutes. So I hope I got some phone calls about that, like, well, are you really going to create a solid waste authority? The answer is no, a discussion for another day. So with that clarification, I would like to then turn it over to Steve Piercy to see if there are any other questions or comments about last meeting's minutes.
Chairman Cush, I have reviewed them, and with those corrections on the solid waste board, I would move for their approval.
Right. Do I have a motion and a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Do we have any city mayors in the audience? We do not. Okay. If it's okay with EKAMOR, I'm going to push you down the agenda just a little bit to our solid waste group. Okay, thank you. All right, so Highway Department, come on up. The floor is yours. And then Tanya, you be ready on deck. Been busy, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. I'm bringing a couple of things to you tonight. The first item that is on your iPads is our drainage easement approval, and this is actually for a temporary construction easement, lots 6 and 13 in the Sam subdivision, which is 4340 Meadowland Drive and 4330 Meadowland Drive. This is strictly a temporary construction easement to allow us to get between homes to the back of their homes where the actual platted drainage easement is. This easement will go away 6 months after the job is completed. And this passed with all ayes last Thursday morning at our road board.
All right.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? All right, motion carries. Continue on.
All right, then next item, I'll be bringing 2 budget amendments. Do we want to do these one at a time?
Sure.
Okay. The first budget amendment I have is going to be for our overtime. We will be moving money within our current budget to offset the overtime that from those 3 events of snow and ice in January. So we are moving this within the budget. It is a total of $22,880. I will be taking some money from truck drivers and putting it into the overtime pay for our $62,000 account. For our shop maintenance account, the $63,100, I'll be moving $7,050 from our gasoline for the overtime and all benefits. And out of our Public Works, the $65,000 account, I'll be moving $2,025 out of the other equipment into the overtime and benefits, all for this overtime. And this is for the snow events in January that we've just incurred.
All right, any questions regarding that particular request for movement of funds?
Motion to approve the request.
Second.
And a second, let's roll call that one, Rachel, if you don't mind.
Commissioner Blair? Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes.
Okay, the next budget amendment I have is for the approval of moving $153,650 from our fund ending balance out of the Highway Department into our $68,714 highway equipment. This will be to purchase a John Deere long arm bush hog, and this will be purchased off of the statewide contract, and this is replacing a 2012 tractor that we have.
Out of curiosity, what is the lead time? Did they tell you on the availability of this tractor?
If
You know?
the tractor that they have bid on statewide contract, they had one in Columbia.
Oh.
And so if not, it would be at least September,
Yeah.
maybe.
All right.
So they actually had one. I'm not sure who didn't get theirs.
Yeah.
Because it is a spec statewide contract tractor with a boom mower.
Great, fantastic.
Yes, sir.
All right, any questions? Yes, sir. Commissioner P, Chairman P.
What year are you looking at purchasing? I thought I heard.
This
Well,
is,
is that the
no,
old
this
tractor?
is replacing a
Replacing a
2012. And this is actually purchasing a 2022 John Deere.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And this is the long arm bush hog, not the side mounts.
You were thinking about selling some of your surplus equipment, weren't you?
Well, yeah.
Yes, you were.
Well, I was concerned about the emissions on these new tractors are a headache. Have y'all had any dealings with these new tractors with the emissions?
Knock on wood, we've not had emissions troubles with them. And that kind of come into play back in around 2012 or so. The new emissions come in on them, and I think that's why some of the folks were having trouble then, but I think all those kinks are worked out, and just to be honest, this tractor right now that we were replacing has transmission problems, so nothing about emissions yet.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. One last question is, although you just mentioned that there is a transmission problem on the 2012, is your plan to fix that transmission and keep that in the
No, sir.
fold, or are you going to junk that?
No, it is a very costly, and so
Gotcha.
it will go into our what we call the bullpen to be sold at an auction.
All right. Rachel?
Commissioner Harris? Yes. Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes.
All right, that's
What
all I
else?
have for tonight.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
All right.
Good
Tanya,
evening, Commissioners.
How are you?
How are y'all doing? I will get into January's report. We had 17 work days in January. Sorry.
I'm sorry. We have, just so we can follow, we have 5 reports under your tab. The first one is the building report.
It is,
Okay,
building
is that
inspections.
where you start?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
So as a result of a couple of holidays and a couple of snow days, we had 17 work days in January, and we issued a total of 261 building permits. 53 of those were single-family dwellings for a total revenue of $85,200. I was down a little bit from last month and also down quite a bit from this time last year. All right, I'll move on to development tax and school facilities tax, if nobody has any questions on building permits. Nope. So development tax in January, we collected $48,750 for a total this fiscal year of $800,250. School facilities tax, we collected $234,123.50 for a total this fiscal year of $1,833,678.20. So between the two, we're right at about $2.6 million. And if you'll look on your development tax report, you'll see about this time last year, we were at $3.7 million. $2.6 combined. 3.7.
Remind us, is that gap closing? It's closing, isn't it, from?
Actually, this year is, the last couple of months have been slower than they were this time last year. However, I'm going to give you a little bit of a recap on 21 here in a few minutes, and it was up, so I don't know whether it was the weather or what it was, but hopefully it'll pick back up again in the spring. All right, does anybody have any more questions on the school facilities tax? Can you read that report okay, the one where it's broken down into square footage? Is that making any sense to you, or do I need to go over it? Or no? I'd go over just a little bit. Okay. All right, so the first column is the total total square footage that was applied for. And it was 241,703. So the 234,123 is the actual revenue collected from that 241,000 square feet. So, and the reason there's a difference is because a couple of the applicants chose to pay just the first half and then pay the second half of their total liability at the end of the job. The first column after school facilities tax, or the total square footage, is the total square footage of single-family dwellings. The next one is total square footage of townhomes, and these are divided into the respective jurisdictions. The third one is mobile homes. The fourth one is additions to a single-family dwelling. The fifth one is accessories with living space, and then the last two that are zero is multifamily and assisted living. So none of the jurisdictions had any multifamily or assisted living projects last month. All right, and if there's no more questions, then zoning enforcement, we had a total of 91 inspections for the month of January. And that concludes my monthly report.
How do you get a tall weeds? Thank you, Robert. Second. How do you get a tall weeds and grass report in January violation? All those in favor of approving her reports? Signify aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Tanya, what else can we help
I
you with?
just want to give you a quick recap of 2021 where it
Okay.
applies to building permits and that kind of stuff. In 2021, the total permits that we issued was 4,392. Compared to 2020, that was up 12%. So that's total permits, total SFDs, plumbing, mechanical, you name it. The total SFD permits issued in 2021 was 1,018, which was up 15% from 2020. And that generated a revenue of $1,169,522 in permit fees. Commercial building permits, we actually did half last year of what we did the year before. We did 13 in 20, and we only did 6 last year. Additions to existing commercial buildings stayed about the same. We had 27 in 21, and we had 26 in 2020. I counted up how many field inspections we did. Do you want to know that number? Because I'm really proud of it.
Sure.
Can I tell you?
Yeah. Pat yourself on the back.
20,855 field inspections done in 21. I would tell you what that compares to in 2020, but I don't want to be a nerd, so I'll just stop there.
Well, okay, to finish that math, though, you got to tell us how many people were involved in those 20,875.
Let's say 20,000 that are inspectors. That would be 9 inspectors. We have 7 building inspectors, 6 residential building inspectors, 1 commercial, and 2 zoning enforcement. So 9. And then just really quickly, some activity within the department. We had 2 employees retire from our department last year, one of them after 28 years of service and the other one with 48 years of service. And then 1 employee left us to pursue real estate. So that means we have 3 new building inspectors in our department this year, which meant they are diligently studying for their certifications. They've got 12 months to achieve 3 certifications apiece in order to qualify as a state certified building inspector. So between training and studying and taking tests, they're pretty busy. School facilities tax, obviously that took up a majority of the beginning of 2021, trying to get that ready and getting software and stuff ready for that. Preparing reports and creating forms and resolutions and instructions and policies. And I'm happy to say that, with the exception of just a few minor hiccups with the public portal, it's went pretty well. We've had a lot of success with the CityWorks software that we chose to use to collect the school facilities tax. That's it. That's all I've got.
Very nice. Thank you, Tanya.
You are very welcome. Everybody have a good night. Oh, it's
Doug?
not night.
What do you have for us on planning and engineering?
Evening, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well tonight. The first thing we'll talk about is, as I normally do, our available lot inventory. At the end of January, we had 745 available lots. Again, those are lots that have been recorded, ready for building permits. It's up slightly from the month before. Let's see, that was about 675. Tanya had mentioned due to several factors with the weather and everything, maybe not as many building permits issued, plus a few plats being recorded. So this time of year typically is a little slower as far as building and everything goes anyway. So this is the time of year typically where you see that lot inventory increase somewhat. I also included the schools facilities tax versus development tax report on there, kind of outlining the same data that that I just went over for your information. Also, I've included on your iPads our year-end report for planning and engineering as far as recorded lots, plats and plans, et cetera. The charts that are on there are really the same charts that we would give you during our normal reports, so I won't go into any detail on those. But I will call your attention to the charts on the last few pages. The first one shows the total available lot inventory as we've tracked it from January 2009 all the way through the present, well, really the charts through December of 21. You'll see at the beginning of 2009, it's kind of when we saw the peak of the available lots, over 1,600, almost 1,700 lots. We went down to a low, 548, around January 2017 in that area. Kind of started trending back up, then back down. So you'll see at the end of December, of this year, of last year, excuse me, 21, it's down to 675. The second chart just shows the total number of lots recorded on plats 4 lots or greater. The reason we track 4 lots or greater with the plats is simply because under our older regulations, we always did this chart based on minor versus major plats. Major plats were considered anything 4 lots or greater. We've changed our definitions as far as what's considered a major and a minor plat in our regulations, but we wanted to compare apples to apples. So as you can see, we pretty much did the same, really just 1 lot difference between 2020 and 2021. Rezoning applications you'll see on the next chart went from 30 in 2020 down to 17 last year. There's really no rhyme or reason to why we see certain zoning applications, a certain amount one year and a certain amount the next. I'm not even going to try to pretend to understand why it's varies so wildly, but it does. And then that last chart just shows you our Board of Zoning Appeal cases. You'll notice that's trended down since 2009, and the main reason for that really just comes as a result of change in regulations of what's going to the Board of Zoning Appeals and what's not. So when we see something that constantly goes to the Board of Zoning Appeals, it's almost a formality. We tend to change regulations to reflect that so that it doesn't have to keep doing that. So we still keep protections in place from a staff level, but don't really see the need to move those through to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Those always come as ordinance amendments that have to be approved by the Board of Commissioners. So that just gives you a quick overview of the activity in the Planning and Engineering Department from an available lot standpoint over 2021. If there's no questions on either of those charts, I'll jump into our rezoning report. We do have 2 cases coming before you. There was a third that was considered at last month's Planning Commission meeting. It was recommended for denial. It was property along Couchville Pike. After the meeting, I spoke with the applicant's representative, and they decided not to pursue the application any further. So you'll only have these 2 applications, one being on Burnt Knob Road and the second one being on Central Valley Drive. The one on Burnt Knob Road, I'll just briefly describe that. The applicant states in his materials that he runs a local family-owned company which specializes in large commercial concrete and demolition projects in Middle Tennessee. Most of his company's work is found in Rutherford County, so he's looking to build a warehouse for storage of business equipment and a place for storage of concrete forms and other supplies. Again, the property is located along Burnt Knob Road. There is a concept plan included with your agenda materials that does show an 8,000 square foot building. This is conceptual. There's some setback issues with what he's proposing, and he's aware of that. So obviously, if this ends up being approved, he's going to have to meet the setbacks for the light industrial zone. There was some discussion on this at the Planning Commission. The commission had some questions for the applicant about their business operations, such as the number of employees, trips in and out per day, et cetera. The applicant said they have about 5 trips in and out every morning, and at some point they come back. The largest vehicle they have is a single axle dump truck. Any given day, maximum traffic would be about 20 trips in and out, 20 cars. Hours of operation are primarily Monday through Friday, with only some activity on Saturday. After some discussion and the public hearing, the Planning Commission did recommend approval by a unanimous vote. The second property that we're looking at for rezoning is located along Leanna Central Valley Road. Let me just zoom over to this on my surface here and give you a quick update, some background on that. They would like to rezone about 1 acre of land along Leanna Central Valley Road for an expansion to an existing self-storage facility, which is located adjacent to the subject property. The current facility and the property underneath was zoned commercial services back in 2015. This is the same classification he's asking for this 1 acre. This additional land will be used for construction of phase 2 of the existing facility before they submit a site plan for phase 3, and we have included a concept plan again with your materials. They do recognize that these type of uses are only allowed in this CS zone by a special exception, so even if they do get the rezoning, they are going to have to make an application to the Board of Zoning Appeals for the special exception approval. Again, there was very little discussion at this item at the Planning Commission's meeting. After the public hearing, the Planning Commission did recommend approval again by a unanimous vote. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, continue on, Doug.
That's the end of my report. I have, after you make a decision on this. I do have just a quick announcement, but other than that, I'm pretty much done.
We would need a motion to approve Doug's reports. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Doug, what
Thank you.
is
Yeah,
your...
just a very quick announcement. You'll recall before the holidays, we had our joint meeting with the Planning Commission regarding the kickoff to the comprehensive plan update. We have planned a public update, or a public kickoff for that. That'll be on March 1st. It's going to be at the Lane Agri Park at the community center where they do the farmers market. There'll be more information coming your way about that. I just wanted to go ahead and just kind of put that out there. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Doug.
Thanks.
All right. All right, item 7 is the Ben Lomand Volunteer Wireless Agreement. Mayor, is that your topic? Who's presenting on that? Is that a Nick Christensen?
It is, Mr. Chairman. I sent that to him. I received it. What they're requesting, Ben Lomand is requesting to offer service into the Milton area and on into Las Casas, very similar to what we have already done into Eagleville with company in Chapel Hill.
United?
Okay. United has come into Eagleville and working their way into Rockville, and I think on down to 99. So I think all they're doing, this is just giving permission for them to enter in and provide service to those areas in the rural area and run fiber. But Rachel, we didn't hear back from him on this issue, did we? But we don't have anything final, right? Can I see that?
It is on the tablet. 29-page, yeah, franchise agreement.
They are, Ben Lomand has always provided service to some of our citizens that end of the county for the last 20, 25 years. This will allow them to come in and by an act through the state legislature allows them to come in and provide services. So us by signing this, it will go to the full commission, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all right.
Chairman P.
Oh,
Would this agreement exclude any other cable companies from offering service?
No,
or
sir.
this is basically opening it up for another?
That is correct, similar to what we did with United, because you got AT&T and Comcast and others. It's just fair market, you know, let the folks choose who they want to do service with. I think all of them end up paying a pole attachment cost, all the cable companies, which is, for the 16 years I was in the legislature, there was a bill introduced every year to do away with pole attachments. You know, most of the telephone companies don't have many poles anymore. They're electric, so there was always a battle between the cable companies and the electric company cooperatives statewide, and the bill always failed. You know, but some communities across the state, we saw pole attachments fees as high as $250 a pole. Some more rural counties were using it as a opportunity to collect fees to help balance their budgets in smaller rural communities. But I feel comfortable with this. If Mr. Christensen has approved it and sent it back to Rachel, I'm going to move it on to the full commission tonight.
so
Do you need a motion?
Yes, sir.
I would, yeah.
Hearing no objections there, I'll make a motion that we forward this to the full commission.
Sure. And I'll follow up with him tomorrow just to make sure that everything's good with what we're saying here tonight. If there are any questions, we still have time to to ask that or delay it if we need to at full commission.
And just to be clear, your motion is to forward the Volunteer Wireless LLC DBA BLTV franchise agreement on to the full commission for consideration.
Yes.
Okay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Okay. That brings us down to discussion of our favorite topic, which is solid waste. So here's what we're going to do. And I'm going to need a motion to allow these folks to speak because, you know, our RFP period has come and gone in terms of discussion with technologies. But I know this group is always interested in learning new things. We have a group is it from Cookeville or Crossville? Cookeville, Tennessee, that would like to educate us a little bit about a technology that they have, which is, I don't want to insult them, but it is somewhat similar to a technology that we have seen. And I would need a motion to allow them to present tonight, just so we're all in this together.
So moved.
All right, thank you. And I'm going to need a second. All right, thank you. So I'm going to let you folks come on up. Please introduce yourselves.
You want to vote on that?
Oh, yeah, I would like to vote on that. All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, Chairman. So, and also too, and I tell this to all the speakers, you know, the natural tendency is to turn around and address us. We're nobodies. The important people are out there. So, cameras. Yeah, and the cameras are out there too.
All right, good deal. So,
yeah.
well, I appreciate, my name is Mark Hutchins, and I'm the Chief Regulatory Officer for EKAMOR Corporation in Cookeville. And while I appreciate the reference of being somewhat similar to perhaps something you've seen, hopefully I can debate that and say we're much different.
Yeah, I knew you would.
Than what, and we have some inside knowledge to that particular technology. Right. So just want to get out real briefly. First off, we know that solid waste has been a conversation for you guys in this county for a long time. And it's nice for us. We were actually here for the presentation last summer when Republic talked about the odor issue and those kind of things, and it makes a difference to us when we can talk to people that actually understand the issues that go around solid waste, which is, you'd be amazed at how we were talking earlier about how folks don't really understand what happens with solid waste after it leaves their driveway. And so it's exciting for us to be able to be here, and we appreciate the opportunity. So EKAMOR, we started this, well, we actually started the conversation about 7 years ago, and then in earnest, we started our company in 2018. And we ran a pilot trying different technologies and different equipment in the waste industry, trying to find out ways to eliminate water or eliminate moisture in municipal solid waste. And so we were able, through these trial and error processes, to find a way to non-thermally dry trash. And that really leads into it's not just drying the trash and reducing the waste and stopping the smell, which all of that does, but what do you do with it then? And so we have been able to have several patents on a process that Kelly will explain a little bit more in detail to turn that into a usable fuel source. And so we're not making furniture and we're not making anything like that. We're using it as a way to provide heat and power to different entities that need that. So one of the smartest things we did is we pulled together a team of great folks that have lots of experience. Kelly, who you'll see in just a minute, is a serial entrepreneur in a variety of different countries, from the Midwest out to the West Coast, and now, fortunately, back to Tennessee. Michael Idlechek is probably one of the stars on our team. He was with General Electric for about 40 years and is affectionately by them known as the Einstein of General Electric. He was in charge of innovation for General Electric and has been a key part in the way that we have designed our system. Ian Sewell has a great many years of experience in the finance area. And Roland Black is our Chief Operating Officer and is an IT expert. And then Kelly and I both have experience in executive management and leadership, and I've done through my higher ed time, I spent a stint in higher education where I did tons of lobbying and regulation, and so I think we've got a really strong team that has put this together. I'm not going to read all this to you because you know this. You know, everything that we find out is that everywhere waste is an issue. And so burying the waste is not the way to solve that, and we know that. And so as we begin to think about the way we put our process together, we really wanted to also think about what the long-term effects are, because I've got kids, some of you have kids and grandchildren. We want them to be able to eat and breathe clean air long after we're gone. And so that's really what kind of has driven our program here as we put this together. So. Now, do you have a solid waste plan? Is there a solid waste master plan? If there's not, that's okay. I mean, a lot of folks don't. So one of the discussions that we have with different communities talk about, what do you want to do with your waste? Do you want to make energy? Do you want to have organic diversion? Those kind of things. But the ultimate question for you all is, how much time and how much money will it take to be able to accomplish our goals? So after meeting with tons of folks all across, and I'm going to go through these two slides fairly quickly, a zero waste solution is what everybody says. We've talked to large municipal cities, we've talked to rural communities, we've talked, our wives would probably tell you it's been kind of disappointing, because anytime we go on a trip, if we see a transfer station or a landfill or something, we pull in and talk to them. And because we really want to know a certain set of questions here. You know, are you doing any recycling? Well, some are. Are you diverting organics? No, not really. Do you want to? Well, yes. Yes, we want to, and most of the time we have to. We hadn't figured that out yet. They kind of have a master plan. You all are unique in the fact that you own a landfill, and you also have another landfill that you don't own. And so many are kind of a yes and no on the ownership of a landfill. And do we want to be zero waste? And I think that's really what drives us daily is how do we help a community become zero waste? So I want to bring up Kelly Warbus to talk with you about the process that we've created to help achieve the things that we just talked about.
Again, I'd like to thank you all for having us tonight and voting to say that we can go ahead and do this. So one of the things that I'm not is an engineer, and I'm not a solid waste manager of any kind. My wife will tell you that I have purchased a PhD in solid waste from all the time that I've spent in garbage trucks, transfer stations, landfills, recycling facilities, just to figure out the ins and outs and how it really works of the system. We hear one thing from the outside, but when we get into the inner workings of solid waste management, it's something totally different. So what we wanted to do when we started looking at everything, number one was to keep everything as simple as possible. Try to eliminate the need to change people's mindset. We're not going to be Europe. We're not going to place all of our recyclables in different containers. Eliminate the need to institute mandates or regulations or local or regional initiatives. Eliminate the need for waste or organic diversion programs. Reduce time and costs associated to develop master plans. Extend the current lifetime of landfills and reduce the need for new ones. And I'll tease you with this, and it'll come up in a few slides later. Eliminate funding concerns. And that's probably the big thing that we worked on next to the technology, was creating a way to help this get done in markets large and small. A lot of you have taken trips to look at different waste and how waste is processed, and we were no different. So all the equipment at the top of the page is basically, I better switch it for you. So all the equipment at the top of the page is basically a dirty MRF, a material recovery facility. And if you guys have gone and looked at how do I take care of my garbage, other than mass burning everything, you've got to do something with the garbage to process it. For us, we look at the recyclables as the high-value material that's in your waste stream. And at the very top side of everything, we pull out, we target the metals, the aluminum, the non-ferrous metals. Right now, the plastics that are the highest value are water bottles and milk jugs. Those are the highest priced. If you've got a lot of cardboard in your industrial cardboard or something like that, it's worth taking a look at doing that. So we're no different on the front end of how we process our garbage, how we begin the process. But what we've done, and kind of what separates us from a lot of people out there, because we've traveled the world looking at technology to do this. It was I was introduced to this several years ago, and from that it was kind of like a dog grabbing a bone. It was like, how do we find the best way to approach it? Being born and raised on a farm in the middle of Iowa, you had to use what you could gather out of the shop. And that's kind of what we did and looked at. So the equipment that we've used at the top is best of breed. The equipment that's outlined in red below is basically our dewatering portion of it. So if you take a look at how the waste stream works, so we go through and pull out all the metals and the plastics that we're targeting, pull that out, it gets baled, it gets set up to sell. The rest of the material, we screen the organics off. That immediately goes down here to this green stage. And then the material that's left over from our recycling efforts meets that back up again where it's pulverized and begins the dewatering process. And how we do this is no heat. We use air. And basically we super concentrate the air with moisture. We make the holding capacity of the air really greater than what physics says that it can do. And how we do that, if Michael was in here talking to you, he'd tell you very small dust particles become a nucleation site for moisture to adhere to. And that ends up going through the bag house, gets filtered out, and then the fugitive air with the moisture-laden air goes to the atmosphere from that. So that's basically our process, and the reason it separates us is because of the cost per ton, the OpEx of operating the plant. You've probably heard of people talking about fluff. It looks like blown-in insulation when it's dried. We take it one step further, and we run it through a pellet mill and pelletize it, basically because it gets the bulk density of the equipment of the dried fuel to the point to where we can transport it cheaper than trying to put a bunch of cotton candy in a truck and transfer that. I assume that you guys have had a waste characterization study done, since there's been so much talk over the years of what you're looking at. This is based on waste characterization studies that we've done the past couple of years in Central Tennessee. And those are the percentages that we come up with. Those are the averages of several waste characterization studies. This is today's spot prices of those different materials. Oh, sorry. Somebody needs to keep telling me to do that. So on the left is the percentages of the averages of the waste characterization studies that we've done. And then on the right side is today's value of those materials. And they're a commodity. They change day to day. If we're talking to you 6 months ago or about a year ago, PET and HDPE really wasn't worth anything. So we get to the heart of what we're talking about doing. So this is the three options that we came up with of how somebody can get a system. Simple one is you can purchase it. We can do a joint venture, or the third one's an EKAShare program. So We're not in the equipment sales business. We are really a waste-to-product company. Kind of hard to get the product if we don't have the equipment to do it. And our equipment is really the engineered alternative fuel that we're making. COVID to us was a blessing. We didn't think it was at first. We had a tornado hit our community over there, and a few weeks later, COVID hit. And so things kind of went on hold, but it gave us a chance to regroup and take a look and see how do we get things out there into the market and how do we go. So what really has happened is in the last year and a half, we've partnered with several gasification companies. And basically, these are people who want to make, whether it's sustainable aviation fuel, whether it's electrons to produce energy, or green hydrogen, green methanol. We've partnered up with several of these players that need the feedstock. And for us to get the feedstock, we have to have garbage. Sounds like a simple thing. Everybody's trying to get rid of their garbage and something to do with it. But it's really the hardest when you take and start talking about trying to interrupt people's logistics of how they're handling garbage and everything these days. So basically on an outright purchase, the municipality or private person takes all the risk. And that's basically what it is. You pay for the system, we'll help you, we'll service, we'll install, we'll commission it, and we'll help you along the way. Joint venture, we get a little more tied in with what you're doing. It's a little harder in some municipalities. Some municipalities, it's easy to do a joint venture. So basically what we came up with was an EKAMOR program where we share in about everything. We share in the CapEx, we share in personnel, we share in the revenue. And that's probably, for most municipalities, Mark said we visit landfills wherever we go. I was in Miami doing a presentation like this past week. Wanted to take a few days to go to the Keys, which was nice, but the transfer station's kind of where I spent the most time. They've got 4 of them on the Keys. To give you an idea how this works, how this would look for us, I've been told that we're talking about 80,000 tons, so that's what I looked at on an annual basis, and that's what I prepared. So tonnage received, 80,000. You guys don't receive a tip fee here. You are unique because you don't pay to get rid of, and you don't get a tip fee for receiving. I don't know what other costs you have. You have your own trucks and things like that. I didn't put that in there. So on the portion, this is the customer's model, that say that if this was you, the recycle revenue on today's numbers would be close to $7 million. The revenue from our engineered alternative fuel, and that's what EAF stands for, is a little over $500,000. The OpEx to run the plant's $1.6 million, almost 1.7. We have to have a building to put it in, and I just figured a 6.5% interest on a $3 million note. So that number can vary, whatever, you can put that in however you want. The equipment rental is basically how we've done it, where we take care of, we monitor these systems, so we know, even though we'll have people in it, we have a network operating facility, much like watching a network, where we monitor everything that's going on. We know as soon, or maybe even before, a local operator will know what's happening at the facility. And that's included, so is the service, except for the daily maintenance and things of that nature for the lifetime of the agreement. You will have a cost going to a landfill. You might be able to sell it for daily cover. It's the inert material that's in the waste. So there's things like gravel, sand, concrete. The glass gets turned back into silica again of how we shred and pulverize it. Because right now we don't pull out the glass. So that inert material averages about 8 to 10%. That would go back to the landfill. Could be used for daily cover, or it could be used for some other means. And you can see basically what we've done in there and read what the revenue share and the risks and that, how we've de-risked that. And I think I'll bring Mark up because this is probably what he does the best. He started it, he can close it, and kind of what this means from a standpoint of our fuel. One thing is the value of the fuel is not just in its BTU value, but how carbon negative it is, because all the people that have gasification systems, they want to know how carbon negative the fuel is before they begin their process. Reason I was in Miami, they want to make green steel, and they're doing it. They're going to be using our alternative fuel to start with something that's very negative, so they can still say that they're manufacturing green steel. So these two slides are very impactful for us.
You can see from the packet that you received there that when we look at these things and we start removing the high-value plastics and metals out and creating our pellet there, that we do gain quite a bit of benefit in the metric tons of CO2 emitted that would be emitted from having just sent it to the landfill. So this is a chart that just shows what 80,000 tons or serving about 80,000 in a population there would look like, but really the more impactful one is this slide right here, because it shows you that, to put that in some sense there, it's the same as removing 26,000 cars from the streets every year, or the emissions from 14,000 homes. We said to Putnam County just a couple of weeks ago, next month Tennessee is planting 50,000 trees across the state. To do just this county would be the same as planting 2 million trees that have grown for over 10 years in the state of Tennessee. And so it's really got some strong impact to doing that. We got this kind of information because we've got a great partnership with North Carolina State University and their program that reviews solid waste, and that we are also working with Motlow College, which services Rutherford County, in building a sustainability program, a degree program there. So as you talk about, building your recycling program and looking at the goals that this committee has for long-term growth and the ability to not have waste be a cost, but perhaps be a revenue stream for you, I think that's where we differentiate ourselves from. A couple of you mentioned another perhaps friend company here in Tennessee that you've talked to before as well. And we know that the cost of our preparation is so much lower, and that's how we can do that so efficiently and help counties be able to get into this in a way that can help them make money. So with that, we're going to stop and let you ask questions. So.
Yeah, I think one thing real quick that I will tell you, we are building a facility currently in Cookeville, and it is for a couple of purposes. One is to demonstrate, bring people like you in to see the facility. Most people understand a lot of different drying techniques, but when we talk about just using the air, that's the daily air, it's hard to believe that we can do it. The second is we are part of we were granted a portion of a DOE grant. We're making different recipes of fuel for largest gasification manufacturer technology company. And part of that is over the next year and a half, we will be making different fuels from a lot of different things. Mainly MSW is the target, but with different blends of plastic and everything else in it. So that facility, if the weather doesn't get us any more than it's gotten us, about the middle to the end of April, we'll be up and running. You can come over and see that facility at that time.
Can you go back to the slide with the financials on it? There you go.
That one?
Yes, sir. So in that model, I'm looking at what your fees would be. So if we were to partner with you and we put up the land to put this facility on, how would that equate? I think you made a comment that we don't pay tipping fees. We actually get more than that. We get close to $1 million back from Republic right now. And that's pretty sweet deal, for as long as that landfill exists.
Right.
So if we were to divert 90% of our waste stream, do you think that this facility could handle all of Rutherford County, Murfreesboro, all of our cities?
No, what we have here is for 80,000 tons. So we didn't design a small, medium, or large system. We wanted to design a system that could grow with feedstock, the feedstock acquisition, or if a community grew. And so one line will do roughly the tonnage of a population of 100,000 people. So if you were going to bring on more, you would do additional lines.
Okay, so we're about at 360,000 countywide.
Right.
Would that be enough feedstock to?
Well, yeah, this is based on the original conversation that we had with 80,000 tons that the county's responsible for right now.
Right. For the county, we haven't added in Smyrna because we really don't know, right, what they're bringing in through private haulers.
Right.
Laverne, et cetera. But I think there's an interest in not accepting waste from outside Rutherford County, and we process our own and take care of our own. That's kind of been a common thread through all this 2.5 years of RFIs and RFPs.
And we have a couple of gasification companies that would have an interest in Central Tennessee if we had enough entities that were taking care of their own. And that's part of our thing with the EcoShare program is the thing that really makes this work is that our responsibility is getting rid of having an offtake agreement for the engineered fuel. And that lies on us to do that. So we'll have those before anything even starts.
Do you currently have MOUs with any of those feedstock?
I have MOU with a cement plant, a couple local cement plants, manufacturing facilities for that. The gasification companies, if we had, probably if we had Rutherford County, the population of Rutherford County, it'd move past an MOU to a letter of intent, knowing that we had that much feedstock to begin with their, because to be honest with you, these people are looking at probably a $300 to $350 million project to do a gasification system.
Sure. I'll have Mr.
Kelly, question for you. Are you far enough along yet to know a ton of garbage equals what percentage of fuel, fluff or pellets?
So 2 tons of garbage equals 1 ton of engineered fuel.
Okay. So that tons of garbage equals 1 ton of fuel. So that 1 ton of processing waste, I'm sure some of that burns up to the atmosphere, probably.
Well, the moisture is roughly about 40% in municipal solid waste.
Okay.
And a lot of companies target just the dry material to do that. The wet stuff is the nasty. That's what causes all the issues.
Yeah.
So for us, that has great calorific value to us. So we look at that piece of it as well. So a pound of our final product has approximately 7,500 BTU in it. So a ton of material has about 15 million BTU.
All right. So the waste that's residual, what do we do with that?
Well,
that you can't use for fuel.
It's inert. It's rocks, glass that's been ground up. It's gravel. Joe House, which some of you may know, who's been in a lot of these landfills and done a lot of work for a bunch of municipalities around here, feels pretty certain that we can sell it as an alternative for daily cover.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Last question. And this may be too early to ask, but has the EPA given you any Nashville certification for secondary material in terms of?
No.
Okay.
So basically,
this is all the recipes you're working on right now.
This facility is what we're going to. So we ran a facility in Chicago, I was living in Southern California. Every day was 76 degrees and sunshine. So if I knew if we were using air, we had to be in an environment that not every day was that way. So we ran a facility in Chicago for about 14 months, and it was a commercial size system, testing different manufacturers' equipment, but really concentrating on the dewatering portion of what we were doing. Our focus was on MSW, but we've tested everything from biosludge to agricultural waste in the mix. But the biggest issue that every municipality has is with municipal solid waste, and that's where our focus was. And we didn't want to reinvent anything, so a lot of the equipment on the front end is what you will see in any material recovery facility. Magnets, eddy currents, optical sorters, robots.
Okay, all right. Bishop?
Bishop Wagner, I'm the Solid Waste Director here for the county. Thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation. Have you reached out to the TVA about the energy that you're going to be producing here in the valley? It's a pretty big thing that happens around here when we're producing energy.
Well, we're probably not going to produce energy in Tennessee just because of the price that TVA would pay for the energy. Because if we produce something like a sustainable, and to be honest with you, all we're doing is the front end. We'll partner with a gasification company. If they decide they want to sell electricity for 2.1 cents per kilowatt, then they can do that. But they can sell non-plant-based ethanol and turn that into sustainable aviation fuel for several $1,000s a ton. So we won't be, we won't probably be in part of anybody making electricity unless they were doing it for their own, their own process.
Would we be the first county or region, solid waste region, that's invested in a project like this?
If you said go today, if you wait for a week or two, probably not. I've spent a week down in Miami on this project we've been working on for the last 6 months. And that's one of the reasons that we're building the facility that we're building in Cookeville is to, trust me guys, I've been in cities, I've been from New York City to towns smaller than Cookeville. And what we're doing is such a game changer. I mean, how do I attract a chief technology officer that had a 40-year career at GE to do this? GE tried doing waste to energy 15 years ago and couldn't do it because they couldn't figure out a way to dry the garbage. So this is kind of where we're at today. This was just a process of me getting deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole, spending more and more of my retirement money or my wife's retirement money to do this project. And I had to make it work, or she was going to find somebody else to spend the retirement time with. And we've been able to attract quality people because one thing is, a chief technology officer's got more money than he knows what to do with. But he wants to leave a legacy. He wants to be part of something that changes the world in how we do municipal solid waste. And that's what keeps me up at night. I'll tell you a personal story for me. The night in June when I sat right over there listening to the public hearing about people having PTSD from smelling the landfill, and I had been doing this for 7 years, changed my whole plan of attack and what it really means that we're doing. It gave me a whole different focus than what we're doing today. So it kicked me in the butt to make partnerships with people who are going to use our fuel. And I think the key to it is that with our control system, that we're making all this disparate technology, pieces of equipment, work and sing as one system. And that's our differentiator.
This will be my last one for today. I'll give you my card. I'll probably have more in the future. Because you don't manufacture the equipment, or where is this equipment going to be manufactured?
It's a decision that we've made, testing a lot of equipment with what we feel are best of breed manufacturers. People that have been in the business are shortest tenured or shortest life of a company that we're partnering with, 46 years in manufacturing equipment in the waste industry. The longest one was a family-owned company, 6 generations that have been in the business for 126 years. So we have had a lot of support from them. I say I did this on my dime, but we had a ton of people that are interested in making a change in solid waste, and they gave us a lot of their time and their engineers and stuff to make sure that we were successful at this. So.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to clarify the 80,000 tons a year. That came from me, because in our research and all the stuff that we've been told, in this past year or 2 years or whatever, that the city is providing about 41,000 tons a year. We're providing about 41,000 tons a year, not providing, but collecting ourselves and taking out to the landfill. So that's those numbers that I gave them, and they wanted to spend some numbers, but what you were talking about as far as the size of the building and doing this all in-house, like in a metal building type thing, doing the MRF through there, and then either doing the pellets or the fluff or whatever. Expand on that just a little bit, because that impressed me a little bit enough to me and the mayor was thinking out of the box here. What if the city of Laverne did theirs for Laverne? What if Smyrna bought their one for their building in their industrial park or whatever to take care of Smyrna? What if Murfreesboro got theirs to take care of Murfreesboro? What if Rutherford County did theirs to take care of Rutherford County? And it blocked it all out, and all the people that's collecting the trash from independent homes and all that stuff throughout the county and in the cities, then it would be distributed throughout the county and not be a total burden on either one city or one county or through the 3P partnership kind of deal or something. It's just another thought out there, whether it works or not. Who knows?
Yeah.
But expand on that just a little bit, because you can build it by the sale, and I'm really wanting to go check this out in Cookeville as soon as you get it up and running.
So the facility in Cookeville will be smaller than a commercial scale, because we need to move equipment around real quick and make different blends of pellets and fuels for the DOE. But for one system, what we're talking about right here, population of 100,000 people, that was the 80,000 tons. That needs a facility about 15,000 square foot. That gives you enough room for tipping on the front end and just to run the system, all the equipment through. And many of you here have seen a MRF. Our footprint for our drying system is not very big. It's basically, on the farm we call it a hammer mill. And from there, everything goes into a duct, and it goes outside into a cyclone where the heavy stuff comes to the bottom and it comes back in where it's pelletized. The rest of it goes into a bag house where the fines are captured and they're returned, and then the moisture-laden air goes to atmosphere. So 15,000 square foot for one system. If you're going to do multiple systems, depending on how much garbage, if you knew that going in, you could build your building a little different, because the best way to build one is 2 lines would take probably if you're going to do it and know you're going to expand, a 30-foot building, 400-foot long would be a perfect building. But it looks kind of stupid if you're only doing one line. So we can move stuff around and make it square and wider. But if you knew you were going to do a second line and add on to that, then you use the same platforms. You have some equipment that you can use both ways. So with 2 lines, you need 60-foot wide, basically, is what you're going through there, how to figure that. And so if it was 3 lines, 4 lines, just add another 30-foot to your system, the length of the building. And we did it that way, just mainly so if something happened in the process, we have a slow down, don't go down. And I think one thing that's important to you guys right now, one of the big things we did to try to de-risk this as much as possible, we have a warranty by a large insurance company that we're just kind of doing the terms and conditions on right now that we do on that as well.
One more question. The putting this together and so for the 40,000, I mean, like what I given you, what would you suggest for Rutherford County? We're growing by, well, that's Rutherford County. That's 28 people a day, but that's pretty large. So you would want to be able to expand it to 80. That's doubling what we're getting right now. That might take us through I don't know, a 10-year. I'd have to run some numbers on that. But anyway.
Right.
So a system like that, what you're talking about, and it's fully automated too. It's not, we've seen some
people. I mean, it doesn't take a lot, but we don't have, 50 pickers pulling out stuff. We're taking advantage of automation. I mean, there's a lot of automation out there.
Right.
The waste industry doesn't seem to use it.
We've seen the MRF where we had, I don't know, probably 20 pickers on each side or something for each section of stuff that or whatever line it's going through at the time. So.
Right. So for us, we would probably have one body looking at the stuff before it goes in post-shredder, or maybe pre-shredder, just to pull out a propane tank or something like that. And then at all the recycle areas, we want that as clean as possible. So we're looking at putting robots in, and we've got a partnership with a firm in California to use that. But right now, we'll put people in there, and if there's a water bottle in the HDPE line, they'll pull that out. But it's, a couple people on the front end where we're bringing at the tip floor, keeping that clean. And since we use air, this is kind of a big one, especially here. Since we use a large volume of air, we tip inside, so there's negative airflow coming into the building, and it's all filtered as it goes out to atmosphere. And that is probably a big thing with that, because we're using the atmospheric air around coming into the building, so we got a major negative airflow coming in, negative pressure situation in the building coming in.
So hypothetically, we have the facility in place, we have trucks bringing solid waste to you, and you're going through the process. So the end result, the product that you're going to sell, how do you get it where it's supposed to go, and how do you and we benefit from that product that you're going to sell or disperse, or how's that going to happen?
Well, to me, the craziest thing that I saw out there was people that were processing waste and then turn around and send it to a landfill. I mean, that's just one of the definitions of, you can put whatever, insanity is probably the nicest way to do it, but with it having the BTU value comparable to Powder River Basin coal and a third of the greenhouse gas emissions, it's a value. And the key is getting it dry. So it's not hard for us to get rid of. So after it's pelletized, it goes into a silo where a hopper bottom, looked like it's hauling corn or soybeans, would run underneath that, and you would load that hopper bottom trailer from that and take it to the
So the
facility.
people who are buying the product will come and get it, and
Yeah, we'll have another agreement with them on transportation, but that'll be included in the offtake agreement. That's not going to be on you. Same with the recyclables. If you do the EKAMOR program, the more facilities that we have out there, the better pricing we get, just like anything. But just whether you're buying or selling, the more of it you have, the better your pricing is on that. So we'll handle the selling of the recyclables. You get your 80% from that on the pellets. We do the same thing on that, and you get 20% of that. Part of what we do is, the reason the EKAMOR program we feel it works is because it's a partnership for us. Municipalities usually aren't very good at being operators. Sorry if I hurt your feelings at all, but not very good operators. So for us being part of it, we have to we're building a pellet to a customer specification, regardless if it's being made for green ammonia or just being burnt in a boiler, it's going to have a different specification. We've got to keep that fuel within that specification, and that's on us.
Chairman Harris, hold on, Robert.
I want to talk about your revenue, recycle revenue. Those are pretty aggressive numbers. Are you basing that on 1 year, 5 year, or 10-year average?
What I did was base that on studies that we have done in the market. So the years may be different. If you guys have a waste analysis that have done, I know you guys have had a lot of people in doing things. If you have a waste analysis, we can take those numbers. And the pricing is today's prices. That is this morning is what I set that at. We have a lot of aluminum in Central Tennessee because there's a lot of cans out there. I didn't say whether they're beer cans or not. But there's a lot of cans.
Okay, I do have several questions. I actually had 9, and you guys fortunately asked about 3 or 4 of them. But first of all, we visited MRFs, or most of us have, and familiar with what the smell outside is. You know, I'm not so concerned about inside, and like you said, you've got a negative pressure, so you're not pushing that smell out. And then that's the first part of what you're doing. Then you're recyclable, basically cardboard, papers, metals.
Not papers. We're not doing a lot of fibers, and based on municipality, it all looks different. I mean, the cardboard is easy to target, but the paper is so up and down on that. It's the fiber in it has more value from a BTU standpoint, and it's biogenic. It has value to us in the fuel.
Okay, so you're saying in your model here that 8% of the recyclables would go back to the county. Did I understand that correctly?
80%. 80.
Okay, sounds much better.
I
And
wish that was only 8%.
On the fuels, you said 20% would go back to the county. Just kind of making sure I'm understanding. You also said that under the model we're looking at, your employees would actually operate the system. Okay, make sure I'm clear on all this.
Well, a lot of municipalities, and so municipalities have employees, and they don't want to get rid of them just because they're doing some new technology. So a lot of times what we do is treat those employees where we would write the county or the city a check. They would become contract employees, but they get the county benefits and everything that's along there. So there'd be a mishmash of those, and that probably works the best with most municipalities that we've discussed.
Okay, now getting into some more questions that I've got. I've got a good feel on a MRF and the smell that's coming out of there.
Right.
I don't have a good feel on this super concentrated, moisture concentrated air that you're releasing.
Right.
Is there a smell related to that
No.
air being released?
So one of the largest green companies that cleans up pollution, in the boardroom they have it never gets outside of their boardroom, but I'll just say it here, they say their solution to pollution is dilution. So for us, we're using a large amount of air. It's very inexpensive for us to create the air. So the moisture then goes through in Tennessee, we can do a PM10 filtration to get any particulate above that out of it. Then it goes through another box that has a granular activated filter in it before it goes out to atmosphere to take out any smells or anything that's in that. So that's how we do that.
So you're not seeding clouds and we're going to have more rain
No, you won't have.
downwind?
No, you won't have that.
Our R&D facility is
Yeah.
All right. Still got a few coming here.
All right.
One thing you mentioned was the inert material was mainly gravel, some ground glass, and I forget what the other word was. But maybe Bishop can answer this, having worked with the state. you were advocating that this could be used for landfill cover. Is that possible, Bishop? Or maybe y'all know?
It'd have to go through TDEC to see if that was qualify for alternate daily cover. Currently, I haven't seen this product used anywhere in the state. I don't think this product exists anywhere in the state yet.
Nope.
It's proprietary.
So that's one of the first things we're going to do in the facility as well, is we'll go through all the analysis of that material. So TDEC can either give a thumbs up or thumbs down. At worst case, it'll go to the landfill and you'll pay a tipping fee to get rid of it.
Well, while we're speaking of the inert material, have you looked into concrete manufacturers in the area that might utilize the gravel?
Yeah, but we have, again, it's the same as TDEC. We have to get, guys, I was born and raised on a farm. I didn't have the engineering team that I have behind me now when I was doing this up in Chicago. I just wanted to prove that I could do 14 tons an hour and get the stuff dry. And that's a lot of the things, the first several months that we're doing up there is doing things like that.
Okay, and I'm going to narrow this down to one of the big things to me. So we've got, as you pointed out, we've got 2 landfills. Actually, we've got more than that. You don't know about the other one, but most people have forgotten about it. But anyway, we would like to get rid of our landfill. We started digging that up and the reclaimed material coming out of that. Can you run that through this system?
Yeah. And Joe House, and I don't know if any of you know Joe House or not, but he's been around for 40 years as a civil engineer and he's been part of core drilling the old landfill many times. He knows the exact soils on each side of it, and he said if you're ever going to mine a landfill, if he was going to start on one, he said that'd be the first one we should start on. So that's from Joe. We'd want to do some studies and more looking into it, but it'd be,
Well, that sounds good. I've got a personal question for you. What part of Iowa are you from?
a part that nobody knows where it's at. So if there's a storm warning in northwest Iowa, we were in north central. If it was in north central, we were in northwest. I was from Des Moines. It's 85 miles north and a little west of Des Moines.
So you missed the bridges.
Missed the bridges. That's down in Winterset.
I'm going to stop there. I've got a few more things I may holler at you afterwards and ask.
Feel free. Anybody else?
All right, so
All right.
I got one quick question. And in regards to pellets, you know your neighbor technology in Tennessee, their pellet is approved as a biomass fuel from EPA, so I think they got the leg up on you on that. Other than that, how is yours any different than theirs?
Well, I think the biggest thing for us is that our pellet is going to be used in a boiler or gasifier day one. We've got offtake agreements in place to start. So we're not going to make any kind of furniture or park bench or anything like that out of it. It's going to be turned into a fuel.
Right.
So and it's just for a fuel.
Right.
I mean, the DOE wouldn't award us the grant they awarded us if they hadn't understood that part.
All right. Well, I guess then the question is, how or why would the DOE give you a grant without you producing a pellet yet?
Well, we have produced pellets, and I ran a plant for almost a year and a half, and sent in all kinds of studies and tests to see what they were made out of, everything that was in there, and they saw that, and they used those reports and that technology and saw videos of what we did and how we did it. If I had it to do over again, I'd invited every county in the country out to see me. I was doing this on my dime.
Yeah.
I didn't want a PE firm to come in here and say, hey, well, we're interested, we'll give you, now you own 20%. And so there's no secrets barred with me. I'm pretty much a open door. Putnam County came up and saw the facility.
Yeah.
On March 2nd at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we were in the office with the county mayor and county attorney going over terms and conditions. They did an RFP process. We won the process. 12 hours later, we were hit by a tornado. The rest is history. So we had to regroup as a company and figure out how we're going to do this. But if there's one mistake I made, it wasn't inviting every Tom, Dick, and Harry and stand at the rooftops yelling, "This is what we got, come see it."
Okay. So from what I gleaned, with this grant, you're going to be able to then go through a bunch of different recipes, fine-tune the fluff and the pellet per a buyer's specific recipe, whether it's for replacement for coal or whatever their particular case may be. So in a perfect world, how many months, years down the road are you guys ready to pop the champagne cork and give the big high five to each other?
April 15th.
Of this year?
Yeah.
And what will be the trigger on April 15th?
We'll start inviting people like you up to see our facility.
Oh, in Cookville, okay.
I mean, that's, to be honest with you, that's all. I've already, I've popped a lot of champagne bottles already.
Yeah, okay.
So
So that being said then, yeah, so that being said, you have enough commitment from buyers, whether you're shipping it by truck or rail, wherever.
Right.
So if we were to partner with you, you've already done your due diligence. You've got contracts that say, yeah, we'll take your 80,000 tons of trash.
Yeah, you'll have 40 out of this one, but yeah.
And good to go.
Yep.
You got nothing to worry about.
Nope.
Okay.
100%.
Okay. All right. Robert, before we close down, you got a couple more questions left there?
The only thing that keeps me asking is the smell. You said you operated in Chicago for how many months?
14, actually. We had a couple months putting it in and a couple months dismantling. So.
And you were actually getting the moisture out at that facility. Did you receive any complaints for smell during that time period?
No, sir.
Where exactly were you?
We were in, I figured somebody was going to ask me. I'll have to shoot you the address of that. It was on Riverside Drive in the Chicago suburb. It was a mass burn facility that was owned by a private equity firm now that had been shut down about 12 or 14 years ago.
Riverside Drive is right along the lake, if I'm not
Well, it wasn't that river. We were along a river.
Oh, okay.
We were along a canal, but it wasn't that Riverside Drive. So.
Well, I've told other people this, and I believe anything anybody tells me on the front end, but I got a really bad habit of going back and checking.
Yeah.
And so I would appreciate that address, and I'll be contacting their codes department. So thank you.
Trust but verify.
Trust but verify. Hey, I've met a lot of people in my I've paid for a lot of tests that didn't work. And I've met a lot of people that would rather climb a pole and lie to me than stand on the ground and tell me the truth when I was trying to come up with a solution to dry this stuff. So I know where you're at.
All right.
Anybody?
Phil?
Yes, sir. When did you begin your process? When did you begin testing this in earnest?
So the first test that I did, our AHA test at being able to air dry it, came from a company in Iowa that said they could do a lot, but could only do about a wheelbarrow load an hour, which I knew wasn't good enough, but I saw them drying it. I came across a patent of a firm in Chicago that had built a vertical shaft impactor, so hammer mill on its side, and they were using it to grind up old asphalt shingles. They owned an asphalt refinery as well, and so they air classified the fiberglass from the granite and the asphalt in there. And so they were using a lot of air, and they just happened to test MSW and had it in their patent. So after begging and telling them I'd give them so much, and then up and that and up and that and up and that, they finally let us take their facility over for 1 week, and that was in May of 2016. And the garbage came off of a school route right around that neighborhood, dripping wet, water running out of it, and we didn't dry a lot of tonnage, only about 4 ton an hour, but the first run through, we dried it from 44% moisture to 4.68. And I knew in that one path through that was it.
And your first pellet was created in what year?
First pellet was done in 2018. We made some biocoal in 2017 and early 2018, which is pretty sexy, but it's not worth anything.
And to date, you haven't, have you sold pellets to a production facility? So it's theoretical, conceptual. You don't have a buyer.
Right. Well, we have several that are
MOUs or whatever, but no buyers. Okay.
We don't have a plant going yet. So the pellets in Cookeville that aren't going to the gasification company that's part of the DOE grant will be sold to a cement manufacturing company.
And do you have a contract with that cement manufacturing company, or is it just
I've got a signed
verbal?
LOI. You bet.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
You bet. Appreciate your time.
It's been most informative.
We'll hang around if anybody has any questions afterwards.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we've got 3 more items on the agenda, and Bishop, you are up for your solid waste report.
Good evening, distinguished committee members. I'll start off with our landfill report. We had a total commercial brush of 253 tons in the month of January for a revenue of $7,616. We had county dumping of 67 tons, 67.4 tons for $2,022. We provided 2,035.80 of free service. We had a total revenue stream from the brush of $7,618. We had a visual stormwater examination that was provided by Triad. Our inspector, David Espy, had taken a look at it. I've included it in your iPad. Please take a look at that. If you have any, it's all looking good, clear, and nones. We're across on the visual inspections, which is always good for us. Our solid waste report, we did a total tonnage of 2,366 of municipal solid waste. We had recycling at 412.61 tons. That concludes those 2 portions of my report. Give you an update on things that are happening. I guess I'll address the thing that I've received the most calls about, and that is about the condition of our staffing due to the issues that we've been dealing with COVID-19 and the rolling closure actions that have happened within the department. Today, I'm happy to have returned Craner Road and Weekly Lane to full operation hours as they were prior to our emergency action. Before I get too far into this, when this began, I looked at this for about a week and a half as I'd go into the morning and I look at our load counts increase. And my drivers that I would have available, of the 8 possible drivers, I had 3 available for 340,000 residents in the county. When I finally decided that the math wasn't working out and then we were spiraling down, I reached out to the mayor's office and I asked if this was something that, let him know what the situation was. And I think this is a solution to be able to keep the ability to dispose all throughout the county, yet it will limit the amount of the convenience of the service throughout the county. I tried to plan I did plan the model to where then each open center. The next closest center would be the closed center and alternating days. I put emphasis on distance, proximity to the landfill to be able to expedite the amount of loads that we were able to handle. To put it in perspective, I was starting the day 80 loads behind at that period of time. We are seeing the mayor's office and the county highway department got together and they offered some assistance for us. The highway department got together. I met with a total of 8 CDL drivers, and I want to offer them publicly a hearty thank you for their willingness to pitch in and help us get through this. Immediately we had a driver that very weekend that was able to get in there and help us with our loads. We reduced by 23%.
Excuse me just a second, Mr. Chairman. I did authorize, Chairman of the Budget, let you know, I did authorize them because of this. We will reimburse the highway department for the offer, and we'll pay time and a half, and reimburse Mr. Brooks for his CDL drivers that he was able to loan to Bishop. We just felt like that, I mean, we're down to 4. We picked up 4, so that I did authorize that.
Well, the only thing I want to know is whose idea was it to pick up Brooks' people to drive for you?
It was the mayor's office would approach me with that idea.
Well, I've had a lot of people ask me because they wanted to know who to blame and actually who to call and say thank you to. And I want to repeat that myself and say thank you. That was and I'll quote somebody that called me about it, said, that was a brilliant idea. I want to know who thought that up. So usually we get a lot of bashing. I got some bashing about our systems being closed over there, and I appreciate you reacting the way you did. I think what you did was responsible.
I think every commissioner did as well. And then my office got all 21 commissioners' phone calls as well. But I'll give credit to where credit's due. Mr. Sandlin is the one that came up with that idea to reach out. He does find an acre in there every once in a while. And
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a quick question?
He did well.
And I understand all the difficulties you worked under, and I think most of the citizens understand because of COVID and the issues that we've had for the last 2 years. Is there any way, maybe this is more a question for the mayor, is there any way we can communicate the complaints I got that were most furious with us were the ones where they went on the website, saw that that said we should be open, and then they went and found that it was closed. And of course, I understand why it's closed. Well, but is there any way we can?
There again, all this was a perfect storm when all this happened. Ashley McDonald, last day was that same week. So our PIO, we had nobody in charge of our, and now I'm collecting, I've got 16, 17 resumes on PIOs, but we haven't even started the interview process because we were interviewing for another position in the county, and it was just a perfect storm. I knew we'd get through it, and I apologize to the citizens that it happened, but it was, they got COVID and they couldn't report to work, and he did an excellent job. Bishop did an excellent job, and that will be taken care of in the future. We'll have a plan. We'll have Facebook. We'll have Twitter. We'll have everything in the future to notify. I have even talked to Bishop that as it won't help on drivers, but I want to work with him in his budget. And we want to look at our convenience centers going to longer hours. And at the end of your report here, I'd like to for you to brief the committee on what we saw today.
Yes, sir.
And going to maybe a full-time person at our convenience centers instead of all part-time. If we can afford to do that, it gives more stability to some of our busier centers. And I think we'll be bringing that to you in the budget process. I'm sorry I interrupted, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Bishop?
Yes, Commissioner Blair, I wanted to address that as well. You know, in this process, we found some failings, and communication was a big one, and I'm going to tell you that that has now become priority number one, because I'd much rather deal with it in a way that we could do it in a mass than the 100 telephone calls that I was getting on average every day, which I'm happy to take. Honestly, I'd much rather people be understanding what's going on than thinking that, and than not knowing. And what I found was the majority of the people, once they did make contact with us, the citizens, they were like, oh, we had no idea. In fact, a lot of citizens, I found out, didn't really understand that we have 14 convenience centers and that there is one, you know, within a little bit longer driving distance than the one they're typically going to. So maybe there was some learning that happened in this as well, but what I'm evaluating the load counts every morning, and as we reach, I'm looking for a 20% or a stability. So if I'm in that range, then I'm going to review opening other centers. I've got a couple earmarked that I'm watching for. I think they're going to be some of the centers I'm looking at, potentially Bradyville and I believe it was Rock Springs were the two that I'm looking at that will be the next ones after the Craner and Weekly open up to regular hours. And of course, the citizens should know that all of the centers, Walter Hill Center was the only one because of its proximity to the landfill and that ability for us to get fast travel up to the landfill from there. It was the only one that wasn't altered on its schedule, so it hasn't changed at all. But, you know, I also am happy to announce that tomorrow I have 2 new drivers starting in solid waste. So, and I have one that's out, had a surgery, and he's out for a while he's getting his rehab goes through, but he'll be back to us too after that's done. We anticipate that'll be around 6 weeks. So things are looking up as far as that goes, and I'm just again, I'm so happy that the county, the mayor's office, and the highway department got together and pitched in. It really was a testament to the county and how we can work together to overcome obstacles with all of the strangeness that goes on around this illness. So that brings me to the other things. So this is also brought to the forefront things that I had planned to be working toward further in my time here as solid waste director in the county, but this sped this up. One of these things is how do we minimize the amount of trips that we have to take to the landfill or to dispose of our material? I mean, we've got recycling and diversion activities which help, and increasing those recycling and diversion activities is a very important aspect of what I plan to do here. We also are evaluating technologies to increase our ability to put more in a container so that we can haul. And we were invited today, the mayor and vice mayor and myself were invited to Bedford County to meet with their solid waste director to inspect some of their equipment in operation. And they have a piece of equipment. It is called the WasteQuip GP550 HDT. It's a compactor that has the capacity to compact twice the volume of our current compacting equipment. It can also compact bulk items such as couches, chairs, mattresses, construction and demolition material, large. The hopper is about twice as large as ours. It has safety mechanisms built inside. It will allow us to see when it is 80% full, which helps for us to be able to do our call-ins and our logistics for our tenants. It is approximately twice the price of what we have. So when you look at it initially on paper, it looks like it's an apples to apples, but the thing that we would gain is if we're able to throw these bulk items, we're going to reduce the need to haul open top containers. I've watched, I looked at the site today, we saw it. They had their compactors and they had open tops to collect their recoverable materials. There were no other open tops on this site. on their convenience center. And that, I hate saying this word, that's a game changer for Rutherford County management of waste in this model. I'm currently looking into the costs of those, and I plan to bring that before you so we can discuss implementing and putting these as we move toward our 4 new convenience centers, or our 4 construction project convenience centers that we're going to be working toward, because I feel like this is the best way for us to manage these materials. It saves us money on trips to the landfill, the maintenance that's required because the landfill is rough on our vehicles. On average, I'm spending around roughly $10,000 a month on tires. So if I could reduce that by 1/3, we're saving money there. These things will pay for themselves in short order. So as with any new technology, I think the gentleman before me can attest. I'm always skeptical. I want to ask some questions. I was won over by this technology, by this equipment, and I think that I'm going to strongly work toward trying to get it for us.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Are the containers on these larger compactors the same size as what we haul now, or are they a larger container?
They're the same size. They're 40-yard containers, but they are made of a thicker steel, and they have a thicker composition so that they can take the higher pressures.
So the trucks we have now can transport them?
Yes, sir. We can use all of the equipment that we use the same as far as our hauling equipment can be the same. We'll need a slight modification on our plans that we have for the new centers to lengthen the concrete pad where they sit down on. I think it will have to be increased about 10 feet, but that's the only change to production that I can see.
Okay, thank you. I have one other thing. Through this crisis, I think you've done a great job handling it, getting it worked out, but I have one request. If we ever have something of this magnitude again, would you please drop the commissioners an email what's going to happen before it hits social media? Because it's kind of embarrassing for people to come up and ask you and you don't have a clue what's going on, and they say, well, I seen it on Facebook. Just drop us a little email and let us know before you drop the hammer on it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's absolutely something that I will do, and I apologize for any inconvenience or uncomfortableness that this made for you. And yes, that's a very easy request.
Yes, Shanto.
I received is not a negative thing. So when I went to see my doctor appointment, so the nurse who worked with the doctor, he said, Chanto, I would like to pass the word on to you, and maybe you can help to relate to this. I went to convenience center or something, I don't know which one. He said, the gentleman over there, he was so nice. Oh. So he's very, very kind. So I would like to go. So that's a good word.
Well, thank you. We love to hear that for sure. That concludes my report, unless there are any further questions.
Need a motion?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Rick? Oh, yeah, I see him. Do we? Yeah, there's a letter in our pad regarding the processes that Republic is going through regarding the odor. Do we need to read that out loud? Do you want to read that? Do we just need to take note? How do you want to handle that for the record? Okay. Yeah, come on up so we can just have it on.
I think we can dispense with it. They're not here. They're not talking. We have a letter. We can read it. I think we can read this in the newspaper.
Yeah, and I think they're coming next month.
Correct, they are. But I don't know that we need to, unless you want to speak. It's on our iPad. We can read it.
But they are, just to be clear, they are coming next meeting, right, to discuss this? Yes, Chairman, they are. Okay, then. Then we're good. I'm sorry you had to stay so long to deliver that. All right, good. Be sure and read this if you haven't already, and they'll be here next month to have a discussion about their updates. All right, thank you, Phil. Jay, and I apologize you've had to sit here all time for your 2 minutes of fame, but come on up if you don't mind. We would love to hear what's happening in the bidding phase of our 4 convenience center updates and where we are exactly on that and what we can expect on the calendar.
Chairman, members of the committee, we did have a pre-bid meeting on the 1st last week. So we addressed a few of the questions from potential bidders. We also issued an addendum number 1 to the bid package. What that primarily included was requirements from Middle Tennessee Electric as far as fees for connection, as well as some of their equipment requirements. And then we clarified the general layout of the office building that we're proposing and an oil storage building. We kind of had a schematic drawing that we added to the addendum. The bid opens Tuesday at 4.
Next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday.
Okay, all right. And that'll be through purchasing department, right? Or purchasing committee?
That's correct.
Okay. I'm curious, how many bidders approximately do you think are serious? And do you know if any of them are thinking about doing all 4 as a package, or they breaking the bid apart?
Well, we submitted it as a package, so we really didn't give the opportunity to submit individually.
Okay.
I know Ms. Brink in the mayor's office probably sent 10 to 12 between the list I gave her, and I believe Mr. Sandlin had a few. I think 10 to 12 packages went out.
Good.
So, if we get 3 to 4, that's a
that'd be
bid,
great.
so.
All right.
I think there were 4 or 5 that came to pre-bid.
Good.
So.
Okay. Fantastic. Any questions for, Robert?
I haven't looked at the plans and, what exactly you're bidding out, but fortunately or unfortunately, because of this problem we've had with COVID, and I've had quite a bit of talk to some of our convenience operators. And one thing that kind of jumped out at me is the cubicles that we use, or shacks or buildings, whatever you want to call them, are not located in a good position. They need to be located so that our operators can be inside that building and still see what's being dumped into the compactors. The reason I say that, it's blazing hot in the summertime, and it could be sleeting or snowing straight down in the winter, and it's nice for those guys to have a place they can get and shelter, but at the same time, if they turn their back, they got somebody's throwing something that should not be thrown into a compactor. It should be, distributed somewhere else. So they need to be able to look at that, and my question is that going to happen with the drawings we have?
Yes, sir. Thank you. That's a very good question. Part of the schematic that I was mentioning is a layout of that office building. The building is placed right behind one of the compactors, and there will be 2 large windows and a operations module where they can actually operate the compactors from inside the building and be able to see out the building from those 2 windows. There's also a heat and air unit, a kind of a window type heat and air to air condition the inside of that building along with the restroom. So nicer than the kind of the 10 by 10 prefab shed that we normally see. These are be nicer. Yes, sir.
All right, Jay, thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Good luck on Tuesday. All right. Other business, old business? Yeah. HB 1842, Wayne, do you want to give us your knowledge on that? Everybody have this front cover of that? All right. I would like for us to support, this committee to support Representative Terry and White. And yes. The full commission for next, which is next week, right? I think next Thursday?
17th.
17th, yeah.
17th.
All right. Can we have something put together by then? You have? Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Wayne, for doing that. And thank your son for being on top of it. All right. Any other business that we need to chat about? Yes, sir. Commissioner and Chair.
At our last meeting, something I mentioned, also mentioned it when we talked to our legislators about having a possible public referendum on whatever we decided. And after talking to the election commissioner director, Mr. Farley, that will not be possible. That's not something that's allowed to be put on the ballot.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the update. Anything else?
Question. This will probably be for the mayor. Have you been able to reach out to the other mayors in the county on our trash situation?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We were supposed to meet today at 4 o'clock. And the invitation was extended to all the mayors to come, and then we would meet at 4 o'clock, give about an hour and a half, and then ask them. We were supposed to have 2 presentations tonight. We only had 1, and extend the invitation for them to stay afterwards if they could. Well, one declination came in, and then another declination came in, so ended up all 4 had other things to do. So we'll have to reschedule. I'll have Rachel send out tomorrow morning, since we were unable to meet today. We'll send them 3. We were trying to coordinate it with this meeting, but we'll send out 3 dates and see who all can make that, and we'll bring them together and share with them where we are as of today.
Second question. If we pull out of the regional committee as a county, does Murfreesboro pull out, or do they stay, or does it affect them at all?
Oh, it would be the Rutherford County would pull out. I believe that it would have, the whole county would have to pull. I don't think that Murfreesboro could stay.
If they chose to stay, they could, but indications would be that they would follow us. But to answer your question, they would not be in a big hurry to do that until after we have things settled with Republican.
I don't think we should be in any hurry to do that until after.
Final question. Have you heard anything on our RFP reclamation plan from Becky?
Yes, thank you. Becky is working on that RFP for reclamation. She is also, the paperwork in her contract was late to get to her, so she is underway with that. She is also putting together a budget of what we can expect to lay out in terms of dollars and procedure for creating, for removing ourselves from the Solid Waste Regional Board and either creating our own, or if legally we have to partner with some other board. She's finding that out, but she's going to give us a budget of what that would take. So yes, she's working on 2 items for us.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Gentlemen, adjourned?